Welcome to episode 15 of the Xrm Toolcast. In this episode, we interview James Novak, a fellow MVP and developer. We will talk about the impostor syndrome developers feel when they take their code and they share it on open source repositories. Talk about lazy developers and how good code can easily be repurposed. We'll also walk through Jim's favorite tools and Jim's future tools that he desires. So, let's get started.
The Newlywed episode, as I'm joined with my co-host, newly married Jonas Rapp, the Mr. Rapp, I guess, now that he's a Mrs. with him.
Yeah, exactly. There's a Mrs. Rapp nowadays.
There is a Mrs. Rapp. And our guest today also has been married for just about 6 months. So far, the two of you have a total less than a year's worth of marriage experience under your belt. So if you have any questions, I've got over a decade. Feel free to hit me up if you need to. But this isn't a marriage podcast. We probably shouldn't spend too much more time on that. So.
No.
So our guest for today, Jim the James Man Novak. I say Jim the James because I always have a hard time figuring out what to call people. Is it Jim? Is it James? Is it Tim? Or is it Timothy? That's one of the when I named my kids, I gave them names that they couldn't be shortened or lengthened. So Jim, you've had to deal with that your whole life of whether you're a Jim or James, and I see you switching it up here and there. So, but I'm going to call you Jim. So good luck with that. So Jim, welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I got no complaints.
And you were married in March, right?
Late March.
March.
Right,
okay.
Right after the summit.
Right after the summit. You almost abandoned the summit and said, no, I'm going to get married, but come on, summit comes first. The MVP summit comes first, and you did. So you're a newly minted MVP and a newly wedded man. So yes, lots of new stuff in your life.
I'm having a very good year.
Yeah. Yes.
I am very, very, very good year. Like I said, I'm very happy. I had a great time meeting everybody out and got to meet Jonas out at the summit and then come back and have an excellent wedding with my family. So I had a good way to kick off the year.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Awesome. So tools. This is the Toolcast. So Jim, you not too long after you got to the MVP summit and you started talking to Tanguy, and even before that, I think you started working on some universal tools that multiple people that build tools for the Xrm Tool Box would be able to utilize in their plugins. So tell us about this project. What is it? What's the name of it? When did you start it? And kind of what is it?
Yeah. So basically, it's one of the things that I did to try to get into the MVP program because I thought, hey, I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. I have work to do. I have the first plugin I wrote was for the project I was on, and I thought, this would be a nice way to build some tools that can help people out, including myself. And wrote one or two that were like, one was a document template manager, allowed you to go upload document templates. Not very fancy, but it was important at the time because it was painful to replace an existing template. So very simple idea, but it's a perfect example of why the toolbox is pretty valuable. So I started working on some other things and looking at other tools, and I thought, I'm kind of lazy. I'm a developer, right? So I'm looking to save time, so I took some of the code that I wrote, my first plugin for managing entities, bringing up a list of entities, and I wrapped that up into a user control. And that's kind of how it started. And then I thought, of course, if I'm going to use this, I want to be able to filter, I want to be able to select, multi-select, that kind of stuff. So I kind of exposed a bit of an API. And then I think Jonas and I started talking about it. He had several controls out there that were very, very powerful. The grid alone has saved an enormous amount of time. So I think that's kind of how it evolved, and then, like you said, at the summit, Tanguy kind of gave the blessing to include them into the main project, right? And they're in progress, and hopefully we'll be able to complete them and get them out there into a good state for other people to use. And it kind of evolved into, hey, what would I need? I need a list of attributes for a selected entity. I need a list of views, that kind of stuff, and Daryl, you've got a few things we talked about. You build, property controls where you wanted to filter things. So things like that just kind of drove adding a whole bunch of little things to this toolbox, and Jonas added his, and it's growing. So hopefully it'll help other developers throw some tools together very quickly.
Yeah, and just to sort of explain it to me at least. This means when these controls are included in the actual Xrm Toolbox package, it means that when I have added that package to my project, I will get access to those immediately, and I don't have to add any extra dependencies or IL merge or anything there. They'll be part of the core framework for Xrm Toolbox. Is that how it's intended to be?
I think so. I think we want to. I think what we're going to do is include them into the base package, right? So you still have to reference them, but maybe we add the references automatically as part of the project template.
Okay.
I don't want to have them all included in the EXE because that'll make a tough reference, or maybe it'll be included in some of the other core assemblies. But that's a good question. What I was envisioning is just dropping them into the root so that they're not hard to find and you can reference them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think that's awesome, and it really makes development easier for the Xrm Toolbox, and that's a huge gain. I mean, we already know from many years now that you get so much from using the Xrm Toolbox when you're developing your tools, because you get all the connectivity handling and everything around that. But then also to be able to get these controls in the process, it just speeds up the development so much. It's actually a lot easier now to create an Xrm Toolbox tool to perform a one-off fix in a system than to write a console application. I really think it's easier to do that. Put some controls and a button there and to do it instead of creating a console application.
Yeah, and I hear it a lot too from, we're talking from the developer perspective, but talking to a lot of people at the UG, the UG meetings, a lot of end users, administrators don't have development experience, but they rely on the Xrm Toolbox on a daily basis. Just to go in and evaluate the system, look at what users are doing, watch logging, like one of your tools to look at the exceptions happening in the plugins and stuff like that. It's moved beyond the developer stuff. So I think that's really a cool thing. And that's why, if we can make it more of a standard, I was kind of think of, hey, it'd be kind of cool to have an SDK. I mean, he's already got the project, which is essentially an SDK, all these methods and base plugins. I think, Daryl, you did the plugin base. That kind of stuff is incredibly powerful.
Yep.
So here's some UI elements for it too, and then they're familiar, right? If we do it properly, then they're familiar. Hey, I know what this does. I know what this looks like. So that's kind of my mindset with it.
Yeah. And I have to say, just since we're recording this end of August, I just recently came back from Oslo where we did the 365 Saturday, or Power Platform Saturday. I'm sorry. It's important. Branding is important, I've heard someone say. So I was, of course, using these controls there and realized since it's now been a while since I was there last, I found some controls there that I wasn't quite sure how to use. I mean, we have the attribute drop-down control, which is pretty self-explanatory what it does, and the entity list view control and so on. But then there are some called like bound list view control. Is that a control that's actually intended to be used in some way, or is it sort of a base class for the other controls?
Yeah, great question. It's right now it's used as a base class, and it was just a way of passing in a generic collection and allowing it to look at essentially using a bit of reflection to look at an object to populate a list, or a drop down. And I was trying to find a way to hide it, but then I thought maybe it would be useful. So I'd say that one is mostly used as the base for the ones that are obvious. But it'd be nice to make it more reusable for other stuff. But so I'd say it's a little bit of a work in progress.
Okay. No, sure. Yeah. And then I noticed there are quite a few that are metadata related. It's for the entities and attributes primarily, and global option set as well. But then there are some data, more data bound, like solution drop down. Is there any control I can use when for instance, what I did last Saturday was I wanted to list users to be able to select a user, which is plain data. So I had a query and I wanted to put the results in a list view. Is that possible now, or do you see that as more of this is a future control to be added?
No, I was going to totally steal your stuff for the grid because you've done a lot of the work already for evaluating an entity list coming back and pulling out the attributes you want to bind to it. Yeah. So I think if we take a lot of the stuff you did and put it into that, we could do exactly what you said. I definitely don't have that right now. I had some that's where a lot of the bound list stuff came from. Yeah. But I kind of hit a point where like, okay, I got to get these other ones done because I need them. So
sure. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so it's kind of like get it out there, get it working, step back, do a little bit of refactoring, and then look at what everybody else has done and try to learn from it.
Yeah.
So I say it kind of jokingly, but I mean it seriously. Like your grid control does a lot of the generic binding of a list that a lot of the other controls would do. So
Yeah,
that's definitely on the list.
We ended up using the grid view control and just add the entity collection with just one column there with the full name of the user, so that it worked out that way. No,
Yeah.
but, and then there's also a few other that are not really data or metadata bound at all, like the XML viewer. Anything to say about that?
No, it's basically, again, it came from that's another good example of evolving, because I think you used that from something Tanguy put together, and that was something that was published open source, which was great. And we keep all the comments in there to say where it came from, and that's one that just came up with, evolved over time. You use it in a couple of different places, and now it's like, man, that'd be really useful in these other places too. So that's kind of where it came from, and all I really did was package it up in a little bit different way and add some additional properties, make it a little bit easier to use.
Yeah.
But hopefully it became, a little bit more packaged in a way where you can just plop it in and use it in a little more generic fashion. And that's a good example too of one where, like, do I just want, and this is I think you and I had a debate about this a little while ago, probably quite a while ago at this point, of do I just, because I like the way your grid works, where you have the base interface and you're just extending what the data grid does.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff I did to start with was I have my own little user control and I expose only the properties that I want. So is the XML, because that one sort of extends the rich text viewer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Not sort of, it actually extends the rich text viewer. Yeah. Do you start with that base and I want to just plop in this rich text viewer and then do what I want with it, or do I want to wrap it up and give it like some commands, right? Some toggle for options and things. So it's a good example of one where you have two different ways of packaging it potentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like many of the drop downs or combo boxes, or what you call it, that in your style here also contains a reload button next to it. So it's actually two controls baked into one user controller.
Yes, yeah. And that was for the design of the stuff that I was building. But then as we started talking about it, it's like, well, you know what? Let me just get rid of that, and you can bind it yourself. As long as you got the base interface. The other thing I tried to do was come up with a common interface. Much like a plugin has the common interface for properties and methods. I try to come up with properties, methods, and events that you might need to make it a little bit easier to say, like, I'm going to pass it a connection, and I'm going to tell it to load, right? And it knows what to do. And I'll tell you when the loading is done so that you know when to update the UI. And some of the challenges I ran into there were, and again, I think we talked about this a little bit a couple of times, is how do I inform the parent user interface what's happening, right? Because there's the work async method where you don't want to lock up the UI, but if I can't just call into the parent unless I know a little about the parent control, the plugin base control. So there was a little bit of work that I had to do to get around that.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess that's either you make it completely Xrm Toolbox agnostic, just it knows that it works within organization service, or you actually bind it somehow to Xrm Toolbox so that you can actually utilize this yellow panel that you see when you're waiting and when the asynchronous calls are going on. And I think we can definitely do some improvement there, so that we get the full async behavior of the controls as well. Yeah,
and unfortunately, the versions that are out there right now, Daryl, you asked what the name of the toolbox was. I think I put one out called Xrm Toolbox. Xrm Toolbox Controls, I believe, is what it's called. I'll look it up. I'll get you the real URL for it.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, and I took a little bit different tact when creating the ones that we've committed to the Xrm Toolbox base project, because I like the being very agnostic idea, right? I can put this on any winform control and pass it a service context and I'm fine. That's really cool. That's really powerful, as opposed to being only usable in the Xrm Toolbox, because my first iteration had a very hard dependency on the Xrm Toolbox. So I think that's definitely an important design consideration when you want to make something reusable. I kind of hit a wall pretty quickly,
Yeah. Well, when it comes to winform development, I'm not sure that we need to be too concerned about making it extensible outside of the Xrm Toolbox, because
you don't think it's a popular platform?
yeah, it's not. There's not a whole lot of extra people coming in and having all these brand new tools being built on it and stuff. So it does such a good job for what we needed to do now. That's the
that's true.
You probably got a good point there. Yeah, absolutely.
So less more bells and whistles, less sort of no dependencies on Xrm Toolbox is my vote, at least. So
that's a good way to think about it.
So yeah, goes. So the other plugin you mentioned that you wrote for the actual toolbox itself was the document templates mover, and that was correct me if I'm wrong, but that is to be able to take the document templates that you've created in one org and transfer them to another org.
Let me rename that. I think there is a document templates mover that Tanguy wrote. Mine's a document template manager. And I took that, and that basically brings up a list of the document templates, whether they're Word or Excel, and allows you to replace the Word document, right? It allows you to replace the Excel document because there's no method in the CRM user interface to do that right now. Sorry, the Power Platform user interface to do that right now. And it was frustrating because you had to go drop it, recreate it, add a new record, and otherwise you end up with duplicates. So what I did was, the project I was on 6-8 months ago, we needed to move like 60 or 70 of them over to a new environment. So I just turned it into a console application, and we wanted to kind of put that into our pipeline for deployment. So that was an example of the document template manager converted to a console application that, like, hey, I got this great tool, but I want to automate it. I don't want to have a UI on it. I want to just point it to an area and, point it a command line and let it run. So that was one thing I did there. I did the same thing with another one that Tanguy wrote because same idea with the portal. This is the portal records mover. I basically asked him, I begged a little bit, and I said, can I please, if you don't mind, take this code and make it a console application, because we were trying to automate our portal deployment process, and it works fantastic in the UI, but we wanted to automate it using DevOps, and that was one where I converted it, and it was about 95% his code and about 5% mine, and it worked awesome. So.
Yeah. That's always, it feels good to have created something that someone can easily extend and completely change how it works, but it's still modular enough that they don't really have to touch your stuff. Like, that's always a really nice feeling. As a programmer, I had someone reach out to me this week that's trying to add the early bound generator to Scott Durow's Sparkle framework.
Nice.
And I wrote in a little, I extracted out a API, basically a DLL that doesn't have any dependencies on the Xrm Toolbox or any UI framework stuff, and so that way you could integrate it more easily into any other tools you wanted to. And he got it figured out, he got it working. Then he's like, oh, this, I need logging. I mean, logging, and I was like, well, yeah, there is. And I just, I sent him one little message like, hey, you do this. And he's like, oh yes, it's exactly what I needed. And I think he had 6 or 7 lines of code to hook in the logging from my tool to his tool. So it was kind of fun to have that happen. But yeah, when you have something that's well engineered and well structured, it makes it a lot easier to be able to extend it beyond what it was originally purposed for. So I think it takes years of programming experience, really.
Yeah. Oh yeah, a lot of failed projects too, right? I mean, that's and I don't mean like complete failures, but it's like, oh crap, or a lot of rework. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, or you being tasked to redo somebody else's stuff and realizing, oh, this is why I don't want to do this, or this is why that project I wrote a week ago is not good and needs to be changed. Yeah.
I also think that something you said in the beginning here, Jim, that I think it's probably the most common word in this show, except for the word Xrm Toolbox, is lazy. I mean, I was lazy, so I didn't want to do it again, so I created something generic instead. And we're always lazy. I mean, everything driving this is laziness.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, well, it's I joke about it, but it's absolutely true. Like, this is boring, man. I don't want to do this again. Mm-hmm. And then it becomes a nice challenge, and it becomes a like, hey, I'm going to make this cool, right? Yeah. And one of the things I like about working on the Xrm Toolbox and open source projects in general is kind of the pressure to not look silly, right?
Yeah.
So I can be a little bit lazy, but I also want to put stuff out that's useful, and I don't want anybody to look at my stuff and cringe. Feel free to tell me if I got problems or if I can do it better. But if you look at it and think, man, this is, and you just kind of get sad, then you didn't do a good job.
I don't know if you can avoid that fully, so I'm not sure you should even try. I mean, you yourself know when you write something and you look at it a year later, you're like, what was I doing? What was I thinking?
Oh, yeah.
And so I wouldn't say that this fear, I mean, it kind of goes to the idea of the imposter syndrome, I think, of not feeling like you're good enough to do something or not feeling like this is good enough to share. But, and I think that there's some things that people have done and just haven't shared because they were fearful of what people might say or think, when if they would just put it out there, they would more than likely what happened if something wasn't very good but it was still useful is people would actually help make it better. At least in our community, I would say that.
I think so too. Absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I completely agree with you, because if it becomes a sort of a roadblock to getting stuff out there, then it's a real problem. I kind of use it as a motivator, right? Because I think about, okay, when I push this out there, I want to make sure that people think, wow, that's really cool, and give me feedback. At every blog post I put out, I say, please tell me, if you get any good ideas off of it, any corrections, any feedback. And I think both you guys have posted on my blog good stuff. So I use it as a motivator, not as a block. And I completely understand, because there have been times where I'm like, I don't really, I'm a little too nervous to put it out, and you kind of miss an opportunity, right? Because I look at it as I want to be out there, and I want people to be, using my stuff, but I also, I'll welcome the feedback, because it's the only way you're going to learn too. And it may not be some groundbreaking thing. It might just be a different perspective on it, a different use for it. But the other thing I think about is, like you said, when you have something that's reusable, I use it as a motivator for that, right? I think about that as, okay, cool. If I'm going to hand this out to somebody, how can I make it useful to them? How can I make it, if I'm going to use it myself, how do I make it not a problem, right? How did I make it more intuitive? And it's never going to be perfect, because somebody's going to have a little bit different way of using it. But that's part of the motivation too.
I can see there being a very similarity, a strong similarity with that, as well as when you create something that a client asks for that has a level of extensibility to it without requiring you code changes, right? So does it have a config option? Does it have, can I change this setting? Can I do that stuff? And it's always, it's another exciting time in developers' life where I'm like, hey, can I change this thing? And they're thinking that it's going to be, 8 hours of work, and you're like, oh yeah, you just go in and you can do it yourself, and here, go do it, and you can just configure it and change it yourself. So
working on a project like that right now, working with another developer who's fantastic, and we're working on portals. And I didn't have a ton of experience with Liquid, and so I took the first, while we were doing the design phase, to think about how I wanted to do this. And one thing I didn't like is the web form steps in a portal. If you're not familiar with them, they configure, you can configure step by step, walking somebody through basically a wizard style. But there's some limitations to it, and it's a little bit clunky. So we built our own model for showing steps and stages to allow you to walk into different, parts of the application. We're doing online applications. And over the last 2 months, we've like, well, if we just add this attribute, we can use this entire framework for this other type of application. It's like, that's really cool. So totally agree. And you think back, and you think while you're doing your design, you try to think ahead enough for those situations, and it's fun when it actually works, because it doesn't always, right?
Oh, but it's a big battle too between over engineering it too, right? And there's so many times you're like, hey, I could extract this out into another base class. Hey, I could extract this out, and on the project I'm working on now, I think one of the plugins has 6 base classes that it's going from one to the other, because this is an action, but then this is a generic action, this is for a generic plugin, and this is for, and so it you can get lost in that rabbit hole. So that's another hard line that you have to draw. That's really hard to draw, as far as what's enough, what's good, what's great, and what's too much.
Yeah, and what am I never going to look at again?
Yeah. Yeah. And when we're talking about tools, when is version 1.0? When is it ready for release? And
Well, I think that consulting actually is a nice discipline for that, right? If you're working in the product world, I can work 80 hours a week and try to get something done, and that was my old life. I worked in a healthcare product, and it was like, oh, well, I can do this and this and this and this, and I didn't have to bill hours. I didn't, and it wasn't a good mindset to be in, because I continually tweak, and then you never get it over the line. With consulting, you have hours, you have a deadline, and like Jonas, you just said, like, when is it due? Okay, this is cool, this is good, this is solid, this is testable, this is reusable as much as I need it to be for 2 sprints later when we know we're going to need it. So I think consulting kind of gets you into a good mindset with that. Kind of helps balance it at least.
Yeah. So going back to your tools, you mentioned the document template manager. I noticed there's another one, alternate key manager. Just a few words. Yeah. What does it do and why?
Yeah, no, I totally forgot about that. That was one.
We can see how uber important it is to you, Jim.
Well, well, it was cool. It was actually a nice example of. No, you totally reminded me of that. It's a good example of reusing a lot of the controls. I worked on a project where they used alternate keys for heavy integration, and we would routinely have, when we pushed out to new organizations, we would push this out in stages, the product, and they would integrate with this external system, and they relied on their alternate keys, and for some reason, some of them just wouldn't publish properly, and you'd have to go and reinitialize the alternate key. And it was painful to go through so many entities and see which alternate keys were published and not published. I think it's published. So I'm like, this is annoying. So I just threw together a real quick control that allowed me to list them for using the metadata, and then show a list of which ones were active and inactive, and you can reinitialize them. So that's where that came from.
So that's used in cases where you're trying to create an alternate key and it just doesn't. Maybe there's a duplicate that exists in the system, and so it just fails, and you have to go and restart it again. Is that what that is? Yeah, we
never found out why this one in particular. I don't know if it's a name clash or something. Would just never publish properly, and we deploy our solution out to the new environment, and bring over this integration stuff, and this one key would, and then our integration would fail because the key didn't exist. So yeah, it was. We never found out what happened with it, but it just would periodically fail, and sifting through all those keys were painful. So, yeah, that was another one where when I left the project, I left them with this tool. You talk about the toolbox being valuable. That's one where you can walk away. Look, cool. The community gets it too. It's kind of a narrow use tool, right? But it saved us a lot of time, and I was able to leave it with a customer and push it out to the community.
Great. So how about the Portal Site Settings Manager? It looks like it has 3 versions from August this year with a few downloads, but it has a big nasty red cross on it, so it's not approved tool yet. Is it something coming, or was it just something you tried out?
That is that hurts to see that big red X, the declined, denied.
It could mean it's not yet evaluated, I think.
No, what happened was, and Daryl helped me on this. So we're having a problem with publishing it to the store. So
just got to go and air all of our dirty laundry, Jim. Yeah. Tell them how we messed up. Yeah. Tell them.
No, we fixed it. You fixed it immediately. It's fine now, right?
Well, I undid it. I rolled it back. That's not fixing it. That's just
that allowed them to use the
away.
Tool.
That is running away.
No, I'm and I think it's something to do with, like we talked about. I think it's the method of creating the NuGet package, but so that one was a tool that was requested by Nick Dolman back in February. We were talking about it, and I'd been working with portals, but he's like, it'd be really cool to have like one place to go in and set up the external authentication. So whenever you set up, I want to authenticate to Azure B2C, for example, you have to go in and put in, I think it's a group of like 5 different settings, and they're cryptic. They're really weird. And Nick had just written this post about exactly what steps to go through, and it was awesome. And I didn't realize how complex it was because he mentioned it, and I never had to set it up myself. And then we had to set it up for this portal we're working on. I'm like, that's painful. So,
and then you got lazy.
I'm sorry?
And then you got lazy.
Well, then I got lazy, and I said, I'm going to write a tool to do this for me. And exactly. It's a weird one, too. It's basically they're key value pairs. It's just an entity with key value pairs and a description field. That's all it is. And it's, hey, that's nice and simple. But with the portal records, you set up a name that is used in the key value across these 5 or 6 settings. And that's where it gets quirky. And the values themselves are a little bit ugly, and there's some dependencies. So it allowed me to put together some business logic around those specifically named keys. and allow you to modify them in basically just a user interface with a little bit of business logic behind it. Nothing super fancy yet. I'd like to put more validation in, but this allowed you basically to say, I want a new, external auth provider kind of stuff, and go in and put the settings in using the property grid, that kind of thing. So it helped a little bit there. We just got to get it published, and it was another one where you talk about the community contributing to this. Just the idea for the tool came from Nick, and he's well versed in the portal, and it's like, well, I can do that, and hopefully we'll get it out and it'll be useful.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for a background to everyone that was a couple weeks ago that may have been trying to open up the Xrm Toolbox and had the plugin store automatically open, if you have your settings set up that way, you would have got a lovely error, and that was due to Jim. Jim and I working together trying to do something and not working. So
just email me, it's fine. Yep. I understand.
You can send him all your hate mail, and Tanky was on vacation, so I was trying to step in, and I think it's Jim's fault, but I'm not sure. So we'll say it's Jim's fault just to be safe.
I've got some.
Let's put it this way: that's the customer service that comes with the Xrm Toolbox,
Yep.
right? That is the commitment to keeping things running smoothly.
Yeah. Yep. And I got some hazy memories from my vacation when I was on my honeymoon. Like there was something with the plugins that let's have another beer.
Yeah, if you're worrying about the Xrm Toolbox while you're on vacation, then we need to talk.
Well, obviously I didn't. I noticed and figured, Daryl will fix this.
Yeah, we'll get it fixed. But hopefully that's going to be, because I have some other portals projects I'm working on, and it's one of those where there's kind of the more you start working on things, the more you see needs for things, and then you see needs for other people. And I think that's one of the cool things about the toolbox in general, to talk about it, the toolbox as a whole. And it's kind of neat to see when it helps somebody, because I've already had people, when I posted about it, they're like, oh, that looks awesome, I'm going to try it. So I think they're just going and hitting NuGet directly. So I think that's kind of a nice feeling where you publish it and people are like, oh, I want that.
Yeah.
That's kind of nice.
I was just about to download it myself now.
Yeah. Oh, so you can't relate. I mean, you've only got the top 5, I think, right? Top 5 tools. So.
Yeah. No, not really. But speaking of which, I'm thinking about we're approaching the end here, but I got 2 questions for you, and you may select something from your own creations. So what's your favorite tool? And the second question is, which tool are you still missing?
Oh, that's a good question. I probably have a tiebreaker for my favorite tools, just because of the sheer amount of time they've saved me over the years. And don't get cocky here, but one of them is a FetchXML builder, right? And
I'm beyond cockiness now.
When I do my presentation on building tools, I actually use it to build a tool. So it's kind of fun to say, look, I'm using an Xrm Toolbox tool to build a tool, because he used the code gen bit for the query, and I think it's fantastic. But at a minimum, I use it almost daily to go in and I need to go look up something. I need to see what the join looks like. So that one has saved me so much time over the years, because I used to use Stunware, had a FetchXML tool.
Yeah,
years ago in
the
Xrm 4.
inspiration and sort of the genesis of FetchXML Builder.
Yeah, and I was bummed whenever that went away. It kind of worked in 2011, but the next one is the Portal Code Editor. That one has saved such an enormous amount of time. That's done by Tanguy. Doing a lot of portals projects for the last year or 2.5 years. It's been a massive time saver.
Yeah, great. So that's the first question. What are you still missing? What do you want from the toolbox, or from any tooling around the CDS and Power Platform?
The one that I think would be really helpful, and I've talked about this with Nick as well, to bring up Nick again, is it'd be nice to have more tools around the portal itself. And one in particular, I mentioned the web form steps. Being able to enumerate the web form steps in kind of a hierarchy, I think would be really powerful. And I've sketched it out a couple of times and just haven't had time to dedicate to build it. I've got some ideas, but that's one that's on my list that I want to build and I really, really want to use. So.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Jim, people that are mad at you for killing the plugin store around the globe, and this is the entire plugin store around the world died for probably a good 45 minutes while we were working on this. If they want to send you any contact information, how can they get a hold of you?
What's the name of your company again? No, just check out my blog. I blog on a regular basis, try to get out every few weeks. So check it out. It's called the Futures Consulting. Futures Consulting, and it's Futures with a Z. And drop me a line there. I'm on Twitter at CRMDevJim, and I'm on I'm on the community as well. So you'll probably see me on the Dynamics community or the CRMUG communities. And but my website's probably the easiest way. Go out and check out my blog and comment and tell me what you think.
And those that are attending D365 Saturday in DC will be able to see you there as well. Although I think this will come out before that, but I think it's going to be the week of. So, and it's already booked. It's already at capacity. So
absolutely,
filled up.
Yeah, we're getting excited about it.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting to be there and be able to have some fun diving in there at DC. So, yeah. And
then I guess I will all meet in Orlando for the summits, right?
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That'll be great.
I'm very excited about that. Never been, so it'll be cool.
Me neither, actually. And who knows? I hear rumors that possibly there might be a joint session by Jim and me.
I've heard rumors.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've heard rumors. Yeah.
Maybe I need to have a joint session with Jim and I.
I don't know. I'm still learning your plugin templates. I'm still working on that.
That's exactly what I need a joint person on. I'm doing a session for half an hour for building a CRM plugin in less than an hour with unit testing. And so I want someone to either ask questions, "What are you doing?" or mock me, because to be able to talk.
I can do that. I can do that.
Heckling. We could be hecklers. I can do that.
Yeah.
So I need both of you there then.
Yeah, just front row audience.
Just front row
or
audience.
Back row.
Yeah.
That's never gonna build.
What are you doing that for? What was that?
Yeah, I did that 5 years ago too. That's a good one.
Yeah. With the unit testing or just the plugin?
No, nothing.
No unit testing.
That's what I'm not going to give away my mocking just yet.
Awesome. Well, Jim, happy new marriage to you. Jonas, happy new marriage to you. Thank you for coming and joining and talking about some of the tools, and I appreciate your desire to make sure that what you're doing is good enough for others to be able to use and put the time and effort for that. It's well appreciated.
Well, it's that between that and the laziness, right?
Yeah, exactly. And also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at XrmToolCast, of course. If you have any ideas or want to just tell us how awesome or terrible we are, send an email to cast@xrmtoolbox.com.
Awesome. Thanks. See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
This has been the Xrm Toolcast with Jonas Rapp and Daryl Labar. If you have any questions for Jonas or I, or suggestions for future episodes, please send them to cast@xrmtoolbox.com or tweet to XrmToolCast.